May be May on the calendar, but this week's episode might as well have been October mid-season form for the boys. George, Ron, and Jay on this episode of Pro Saints Talk. We get into the draft picks, Olave, Penning, get into Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry, free agent signings. What's this team's potential? What can they do? Are we talking Super Bowl here? Is all of a sudden this a Super Bowl squad? All that and more next on Pro Saints Talk.
Look at uptown people like yeah. People up in Britain like yeah. Mid-city folks like yeah. People downtown man yeah.
Where you at, Hoodats? And welcome back to Pro Saints Talk. We've been gone for too long. We recognize it. I know y'all recognize it, but we're back. So much to catch up on. We're going to touch on the draft. We're going to touch on the free agent splash signings. We're going to talk about the schedule release. But before all that, we got to check in with our main men. George, how we living, baby?
Ron, we're lavish, very dehydrated. It's hot out there, man. The beer garden doesn't have we have power and we have air conditioning, but we can't use that power to turn on the air conditioning, man. It's hot. Playing pickleball in the evenings, man, it's hot, sunburn all day long. But one thing that we can always get ready for, no matter how bright red our sunburn is, however neon our urine is, we can always be ready to go full blast, full Ron for the Saints. Not that many people get hyped for the Saints in May. I can't turn this off. We're 33 years old. When will we stop caring about the draft? When will we stop living and dying by every little blip of news for the Saints? I always thought, like, as life got more busy and you have more kids and all this stuff, that eventually your fandom will die, and it will never die. So here I am in May, as geeked up as ever. Jay, how you living?
Well, it sure sounds like you turned it off, George, because you led with the weather after we signed Jarvis Landry and Tyrann Mathieu with the ceiling being the Super Bowl. And you lead off with construction and weather. So, Ron, let's get to it. Let's rock.
Jay, loving the energy tonight. Loving it. All right. Speaking of energy, I think that I was so hyped up for the Saints moving up in the draft. You just knew something was going to happen here. The Saints always seem to target a particular player, make their move, go up for him. That's exactly what happened. And George, Jay, maybe this is just the shot of life that wide receiver room needed. You go up, you get the guy, Chris Olave, you stack Buckeyes on Buckeyes. George, we've talked a lot of crap about Mike Thomas on this podcast in the last 2 seasons. I mean, a lot. But is this just what the doctor ordered? A familiar face, a familiar alumnus, a brother in arms, and maybe a little motivation of breathing down your back like, hey, man, put up or shut up.
You know, there are a lot of good receivers in this draft class, namely in the first round. And the fact that we traded up for Chris Olave, or as you say, Chris Olave, is very telling that we drafted him specifically, one, for his skill set, but two, because he has a mentor-mentee relationship with Mike Thomas. So Dennis Allen's flying to California. Dennis Allen's doing all these things to appease Mike Thomas, which you may or may not agree with. Yet at the end of the day, there were a lot of good receivers out there. And when we traded up, my heart sank because it's, oh no, we're getting a quarterback. Don't you do it. But for the first time since the Sean Payton era and now the Dennis Allen era, when you look at the mock drafts coming up, you always think of what positions do we need and how can we fill them with guys that are talented in this draft. For the first time, we had 2 glaring needs, wide receiver and offensive line, and they were fulfilled. And it was such a great feeling. So Chris Olave, did we have to trade up to get him? Yes. Were there going to be other receivers at great value where we stood? Yes. Yet, to answer your question, Ron, I think we traded up for Olave because he has that strong relationship with Mike Thomas. And it's, one, to bolster the offense, and two, to reignite Mike Thomas.
No doubt. I mean, I just think that Thomas needs this right now. He needs both the moral support, but also the wake up call. And we'll talk about it later with the Jarvis Landry signing of what that does to the dynamic as well. But Jay, thoughts on the first round? I mean, yeah, we knew going in, we had the 1-2 punch of the picks, and it was going to be an exciting Thursday night in that primetime broadcast. But how are you feeling after Thursday night?
I was feeling good. I think they obviously address needs, but you think you're trading up to number 12 to appease Michael Thomas, who's been out for a year plus? It's got very little to do with Michael Thomas. It's obviously, to me, it has to do with skill set. You need a guy that can get open. You know, you watch Jameis Winston his first 7 games. He led the Saints to a 5-2 start. And look at Marquez Callaway against the Patriots. Deontay Harris, for the most part, of those first 7 games when Jameis Winston was healthy, was the most dynamic receiver that could get open. That was a real threat to the defense. And you needed playmakers that could get separation. And Jameis Winston led the Saints to a 5-2 start through 7 games. And for me, it had more to do with skill set of the receivers that were on the board more than appeasing Michael Thomas and getting Michael Thomas Jr. or getting a guy that went to the same school that Michael Thomas went to, but more another guy that could complement him in this offense and another guy that could just get open, because you didn't have many guys on this roster. Marquez Callaway, is he a good receiver in this league? Yeah, I think he's an average receiver. Is he a good wide receiver number 4 in this league? Yeah, he's a really good wide receiver number 4 in this league. But it was evident when he was lining up on the number 1 spot last year that he's not really good at that. And you're overreaching, asking him to do that. So for me, Ron, that was a glaring need. And it was good to see the Saints address that. For me, with these signings,
wait. First off, dude, I that's why I was playing both sides of this narrative. Like, yes, you can see I'm not saying they picked him for Mike Thomas. I'm saying it has the potential to help him in his mental state, whatever that is right now.
More so than Trey Burks could offer, because Trey Burks is a very talented first round. You could even have to trade up to get him and off more draft picks to get him. Yet you did for Chris Olave. Why? And I think a lot of that has to do with the Mike Thomas impact. Of course, yeah, there's a lot to like about Olave off the field, but there's a lot to like about all these guys. And it was the 11th pick, not the 12th. And with Mike Thomas not on the field, Chris Olave is going to struggle with getting off the physical corners. And that's his Achilles heel is his physicality. So when Mike Thomas is on the field, they're a great 1-2 duo, because Mike Thomas is going to take the physical corners off of Olave, and then Olave is going to have a Ridley type of existence getting open in existence.
I don't disagree with the physicality complimentary and the playmaking complimentary. Is more is what I'm saying is, I thought part of what your point was, George, is they're drafting a guy like Olave. It's got something to do with it, because he went to the same university that Michael Thomas went to. And if you're trading up to the 11th pick instead of the 12th pick, like you pointed out, you're not trading up into the top 11 picks to pick a guy that went to the same university that another guy went to that hasn't played in 18 games to keep him happy. I think the bigger thing is, Ron, is left tackle. If you can't keep your quarterback upright to throw to these guys like Olave, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, then we're not even talking about the receivers. But you pick a guy, Penning from Northern Iowa, at a critical position. And I opened up the show and talking about Super Bowl as the ceiling, and that realistically, all of a sudden, that is the ceiling. But I feel like you got a guy in Penning that could either be Ramczyk as far as quality to right tackle at what he could bring at left tackle, or he could be really bad, right? And if you pick him at top 15 pick at number 13, it seems like he has the expectations of coming in right away and starting. So he better be pretty damn good right away as your left tackle, the most critical position of the offensive line. And to me, going into the year, Rob, that's the most important position, singular position, not only the group, but the left tackle position.
Okay, first off, Jay, coming from my job here with the segues, dude, I wasn't done on Thomas, but okay, we'll move on. So Trevor Penning at 19, I don't agree with that comment there. For you making it sound like this guy's got a low floor. Like, oh, it could be bad.
He's not Turner. He's not Davenport. He's got a very high floor.
Dude, this guy seems. This guy seems like cut from the cloth of Ironhead Hayward. Like, this guy's got an attitude about him that is old school, dude. I mean, just wanted to beat dudes up at the Senior Bowl. Like, he just comes with that chip on your shoulder that I think is going to benefit him so much going into camp, where he's out there with something to prove, man. Even now, being 19th overall selection, wants to come in, prove he can be a starting left tackle. So I'm loving the vibes coming off Trevor Penning. George, what you feeling?
I called that, ask my boy Conway Marshall Mills. Man, I called that 2 months ago. This is the guy I wanted in the first round, and it's so rare that it actually happens. You watch a lot of highlights of Sheldon Rankins, and then we actually draft him. You're thrilled. I remember that moment. And so many times you fall in love with prospects, and then we don't draft them, and you follow them, and then you're like, okay, the Saints were right about Danny Shelton. I remember falling in love with Danny Shelton, and we didn't draft him. This is the guy I fell in love with early in watching highlights and watching tape of all these prospects. By far the guy I wanted. Just he was like a caricature of what you want of an offensive lineman. Just like a Bam Bam, like an angry little Kyle Turley, Charles Bentley, somebody that has some grit and feistiness in the offensive line. We haven't had that in so long. And with the Sean Payton era, it's been a lot of finesse offense. And now with Dennis Allen, maybe he's going to institute a new way of life. I know you said that's crazy, George. Look, we have 4 good wide receivers and a running back who's going to be suspended. So how can you say we're going to be a new brand of football? Look at this offensive line. It is fantastic. If Ruiz wasn't a bust, it'd be like what the Cowboys were a decade ago, and all first-round studs. And what I'm interested in going into this offseason is Dennis Allen's going to say, I don't care how you got here. We're going to put our best foot forward. So if Penning beats out Hurst, I'd love to see who was spectacular last year. I mean, think about it. When our starting left tackle, all-star Pro Bowler, Teron Armstead went out, Hurst filled in, and we didn't miss a beat, which is so rare at a premium left tackle to go down, and then the offense keeps going. So if Hurst gets beat out by Penning, give Hurst that opportunity. Give Hurst that right, which he's earned, to go beat out Ruiz at right guard, to beat out Pete at left guard, or even Calvin Throckmorton, who shined more than Ruiz at times last year. And the makeup of our offensive line, because of drafting because of drafting Penning, is going to make this offseason even more entertaining on which directions we go there.
I just want to point out too,
Rod, we're getting pretty emotional, and I'm not even. Are we talking about the player and what he brings to the table? Like, mock drafts had him in the top 20. The Saints picked him in the top 20. And so, ipso facto, he should start at left tackle, right? Day one. But you guys are talking about intangibles, how he's nasty, how he's this, how he's that. What about the realistic lens of the highlights that I saw from the Senior Bowl? He's hip tossing guys into quarterbacks. The other thing is he played at University of Northern Iowa. You pick him to be in the top 20, right? He's got to start right away. What other position is more critical than left tackle on your team, period? Quarterback, middle linebacker, what else? So that's all I was saying, was naming that. That's why I think it's the most important position to watch going into the season.
Jay, I won't lie. When I saw this, I saw the same clips and I thought the same thing. I said, oh shit, there's Jameis Winston's knee right there. But what you're forgetting is who we brought in the offseason, getting the gang back together. You got Doug Marrone coaching the offensive line. Let me remind you, guys, Doug Marrone has groomed and developed in this league. Oh, I don't know, Jari Evans, Zach Street.
Bloomsburg. If you can do it from Northern Iowa, you can do it from Bloomsburg.
Dude,
yeah.
Carl Nix. I mean, dude, these are the kinds of guys that –
And
These are the
Trevor Penning,
George.
he
These
might
are
not
the
even
kinds
beat
of
out
guys
Hurst.
Doug Marrone has groomed and developed. I think he's going to take Penning as the next protege.
I'm not throwing salt. I'm bringing conversation to the table. And like, all right, yeah, the guy claims he's nasty and he's got a mean streak and he's picked in the top 20. But I'm also talking about how left tackle is potentially the most important position on your team. And if you don't have a left tackle, you don't have Jarvis Landry, you don't have Olave, who we led the show off with.
He's got to beat out Michael Hurst first and foremost, which will not be easy. I think the whole reputation, James Hurst, sorry. The reputation of James Hurst is he's awful in practice, and yet he shines in the games.
He's a gamer.
And that's so funny because he'll be easy to beat out because come training camp,
Jamer.
He'll be hard to beat. He'll be easy to beat out, but actually in the game, Hurst can really play. So that won't be a cakewalk for Trevor Penning to earn that left tackle spot.
No, but Jay, it's almost like you're talking like we had an alternative. I mean, what would you have liked them to do? They got the perceived best left tackle on the table with their first round pick. And since we had to make the trade to go up and get Olave,
I'm not saying they should have done
picks.
I'm not saying they should have done anything different. All I'm doing, Ron, is talking about it. Right? If it was the left tackle from Alabama, at the end of the day, you have a starting left tackle with Super Bowl propositions because clearly that's what the expectations are of Dennis Allen, Mickey Loomis when you go out and you sign Tyrann Mathieu, you sign Jarvis Landry. It's not for 3-5 years from now. It's for right now, right? So all I'm doing is talking about it.
Hey, all we're doing is talking. George, all we're doing is talking. Hey, competitive rebuild.
I'm doing push-ups.
Hey, Ron, don't you ever disagree with me again.
You see what happens? Spice gets added to the show. George, how's it feel for a change?
Oh, I feel so much less pressure. Instead of like Leonidas fighting two, immortals, maybe not everyone's like a 300 reference, but it feels good to be on an even playing field here. Actually, I love it. I might put the stick in the cage a bit more and rattle the cage a bit.
All right. So speaking of rattle in the cage, I mean, so we can talk about the rest of the draft because I think you went to bed Thursday night feeling like check, everything from here almost feels like lanyap. Like let's go fill in some smaller, less glaring holes. But then George, Jay, some of the rest of the picks, a little bit of head scratchers. Jay, you got any opinions on Alante Taylor or any of the other remainder of the picks?
Go ahead, George.
Ron, are you kidding? I said at the beginning, I said, don't take my notes here. I'm going to tell you about Alante Taylor. It doesn't make sense. Alante Taylor at first made sense because if PJ goes in for Marcus Williams, then someone's going to have to fill in the void that PJ left as he goes into becoming Marcus Williams. I thought Alante Taylor may become that. But then you sign Honey Badger and you're back at strong at safety. When Jay's talking about the most important position on your team, left tackle comes to mind, defensive end comes to mind, cornerback comes to mind. So the fact that we're going into the season with a Debo, of course, Marshawn Lattimore, PJ, he's still there, Alante Taylor, Bradley Roby. I mean, it's great to have this many cornerbacks. But in the second round, you could have gotten the best running backs in the draft. And the hammer hasn't come down on Alvin Kamara, but one is due to come whether or not a TMZ video is leaked. He's going to lose 6 to maybe 8 games from the suspension from the Pro Bowl in Las Vegas. Why did we not address that glaring hole? That was a bit concerning. Tight end, okay, Taysom Hill's your tight end, is he? Troutman, huge disappointment last year. Why are we getting a 4th, 5th cornerback over a running back that might have the ball 20 times a game for half the season? I don't think any of us are willing to really trust Ingram or Tony Jones Jr. based off what we saw last season.
No, you point out some great points that I think everybody was feeling on that. Was that really where we needed to go? Especially, like I just pointed out, you traded up for Olave and gave up a lot of those mid-round picks to do it. And so you had to be that much more selective in who you're going to pick up in this draft class. So, Jay, Thoughts on going corner here, and then let's transition into some of the other guys.
I agree. No, George, I think that's a good point. It's kind of a head scratcher that leads you to believe, like, is that a panic pick? Because what are you doing? You visited with Tyrann Mathieu before the draft. The brain trust has to know that there's some agreement, right? There was speculation that they were going to pick a safety there, I believe, from Tulsa, maybe that might have gone a couple picks before. You know, that the old cliche goes that you never have too many corners, but I think in this sense, at some point you do. You re-sign Roby, and we talked about on the last podcast about flexibility within the secondary and moving some of those guys to safety, like Chauncey, like potentially PJ. But then in the offseason, you sign Marcus May, you sign, right, eventually you sign Tyrann Mathieu.
Brought PJ back.
Right. I know that's after the draft, but the lead here that George is talking about that we haven't talked about, that is an off-season discussion and it's an August conversation is, and I feel like there's no knowing with suspensions and what it's going to be. It's kind of like the salary cap. You think you have an idea, like the Saints are in the worst salary cap hell, and then all of a sudden they're one of the top 5 best teams. I've got no prediction how Alvin Kamara's suspension is going to go, but it sounds like there's the potential that he could be put in jail for some amount of time. And George said 6 to 8 games, and that seems kind of extreme, but it very well could be. And at the least, it's going to be 4 games. And the backup running back at this point is a 32-year-old Mark Ingram, who late in the season showed signs of age, and a Tony Jones, who wasn't the guy that we saw in the preseason. So I don't know if you make that pick in the second round, but it was interesting that the Saints didn't choose a draft pick to select a running back at any point.
Well, and how much of that is running backs just, I don't know, they're just so devalued, and especially in the Saints organization, I feel like they're just so apt to go get them as UDFAs. We'll talk about our prodigal son returning later. But yeah, so, okay, head scratcher there.
But Ron, no matter how many games Kamara is suspended, I would still say, especially when you don't have a third-round pick after you trade up to get Olave at number 11, that second round going towards a running back, even if you consider it devalued, still has immense value in the fact that it protects Alvin Kamara. I know we have all these offensive weapons that we got over the offseason, but good God, man, he can't be our only running back. You need at least 2. And for just it to be the Alvin Kamara show all season long, which we know at some point a suspension is coming, and at some point injuries are coming, and we have a great offensive line and we have a great wide receiver core now. I mean, look at the difference a year makes from last year's receiving core to this year. I mean, what a great upgrade. Yet, what's really a quarterback's best friend is a running game, and I just don't want to, in a 17-game season, rely on Alvin Kamara, because you see what happens over the course of a season when you do that. He starts to break down, and come when you need him most, he's 80%, and he's never that guy that's going to take himself out of a game, but it's a very noticeable difference from when he's healthy to when he's not.
Yeah, so all points that are valid there, George. I mean, you could almost say the same thing like that you say about corner, about, okay, yeah, can never have enough running backs when you're talking about a 17-week season and you already know that you're going to be putting extra mileage on, yes, Jay,
but we have
like
5 corners. We have 5. We only have 1 running back. Agreed.
So, okay, let's keep it rolling. All right, so that was it for days 1 and 2. Like I said, we kind of gave up those mid-round picks. You got to fast forward all the way to day 3, where we took a couple guys out of some smaller schools. Jay, a service academy guy, Jordan Jackson. Heard you got some insider info on this guy.
Jordan Jackson, Ron, ran into him at the Hilton last night. If nothing else, would be an upstanding academy citizen in the city of New Orleans. He seems ready to go. Big old dude. Hopefully he can hold his leverage, hold his weight down there in the trenches.
Yeah, work cut out for him. I mean, it's already kind of crowded on the interior D line. We'll see what happens there. All right.
Wait,
so
Ron, it's not that crowded. Malcolm Roach, Shy Tuttle, Onyemata. He's gonna make the team.
Oh, you think so?
What about
You want to put money on that?
Sure.
what about that dude from yeah, he just bought a house yesterday, right?
Yeah, dude. Hey, pro gambling talk. You want to put some
What-
money on that, George? You feeling cocky?
Well, who would
George,
would,
and what's
would DTs would he not would make the team ahead of him? Huggins? He's gonna make the team.
what's the guy out
Malcolm
of
Roach, Shy Tuttle, David Onyemata.
Onyemata.
You were already talking about the fact that Cam Jordan might be playing a little bit more inside with the
Oh
development. of
my
Peyton
God!
Turner.
You can't take
Let's-
my notes from what we
let's
talk about.
just
I resent both y'all for
move
doing
on.
this. So what I say to y'all before the episode, y'all can't use
Why do
that.
you resent me? I didn't say anything about your notes.
I resent y'all. We gotta get y'all.
We
Rob.
said
Look,
we said we were
resent
going to
y'all.
move on. We said we were going to move on to some more exciting news.
You see what
all
happens
right?
in the heat? You get feisty in the heat. I love
We
it.
said that we were going to move on to
But-
some more exciting news. Can't keep the Rons waiting talking about Peyton Turner instead of Tyrann, Honey Badger, Matthew, baby. Dude, nothing got the Hoodats more fired up. I mean, Twitter exploded. Just the group me exploded. Pro Saints Talk Rons had to be fired up because we got the tease. Like Jay said, we got the tease before the draft. Oh, he planned the visit. Oh, this could be it. This could be happening. He was doing some charity events down in New Orleans, doing some good work. And then boom, got the deal done. So it shatters, the stigma, the stereotype that, Saints, they just really don't care about LSU. And, all the homers, we have to acknowledge it. All the homers, they've seen LSU have so much success, with their alumni going into the NFL here in the last 5 to 8 years, whatever run you want to call it. And Saints really just haven't gotten on board. Yeah, we got Quan Alexander for a couple of years there, and he played well for us. So, George, thoughts on the signing?
Ron,
high
are we talking about we feel like this is actually a thing? Like Sean Payton had some prejudice against LSU players?
I'm not saying it's a thing. I'm just saying you can't argue with the results that all it perceived. Obviously we have a filter for this and we're paying more attention to those guys. You got local radio segments that are tracking Tigers and the pros. Hey, this is what all the LSU alumni did this past weekend. Everybody's got fantasy football teams. They know what they're doing. So yeah, you can't help but recognize it. I'm not saying that it had any bearing on any personnel decisions that Sean Payton and Mickey Loomis made over their tenure, but you just can't deny the results that we did not target those guys. We didn't get those guys on the roster. We didn't get them in the draft. So to have a guy like this come on, and then look, I'll just jump ahead and say, and then you make the splash with Jarvis Landry, dude, hot take for the Rons here. It just feels like maybe Dennis Allen is doing his best work to endear himself to the Ron Nation before he even gets his first game under his belt here, while also filling up the roster with some good guys, some good leaders. So I just think obviously that is an, ancillary, unrelated
It's
benefit.
contagious. It's contagious.
Obviously that's just,
Unless your
rider-
hamstring's falling off the fucking bone, it's contagious.
Ron, I got one thing about Honey Badger, and it is exciting with the safeties, especially him with Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, to have such a hard-hitting duo back there. It's going to be fun to watch. And sometimes when the Saints are on defense in the history of our lifetime, it's agonizing to watch them play D. This is going to be a fun defense to watch. But something else Honey Badger brings is, and this is off the field, New Orleans, everyone's on NOLA.com watching WWL. You know what's going on. I mean, it's the worst crime the city's seen since 1994. And there needs to be sports figures or heroes or just really good dudes that a lot of these young guys can look up to show them the right way to do things and to separate right from wrong. And it seems Honey Badger is 100% committed to coming to New Orleans to do good on the field and even more so off the field, which is what the city desperately needs right now is some good young leadership.
Yeah.
And he's
And
tailor-made for it.
And George, to that point, I feel like is what he brings as a player versus the hype that he received coming into New Orleans. I think it's unbridled enthusiasm as far as it feels like from the general public, right? And you, Ron, and I were not the casual fan in regards to how much we care and how much we know and how much we invest in the team. But I think so many people were excited about the guy, Tyrann Mathieu, coming to the team and what he possesses as a person and what you were talking about, George, is about the person and what he can contribute to the city of New Orleans. And that shouldn't be understated. But the other thing is he's not the guy that he was when he came out to the Cardinals. He's not the guy that he was 3 years into the league, but he's more similar to a guy like Malcolm Jenkins a couple years ago, 5 years ago, who at that safety position, similar to left tackle, Ron, it's a very important position where even if you are declining athletically, right, you got to be pretty sharp with your mind to be able to line that secondary up, to be a leader, to possess those things intangibly, right? That like a guy like Malcolm Jenkins, like we could all see that Jenkins wasn't the same that he was in his first stint with the Saints last year, but he was still very effective. And then, I mean, Hollywood couldn't write a better script than Tyrann Mathieu. And I mean, it's just an incredible story for him to come back here and for the guy that he's developed into personally. And if you listen to his interview on Rich Eisen, which I encourage everybody to do, about his goals to start a school for kids that need second chances. And you could tell before he signed with the Saints, it seemed like it was more Tyrann Mathieu recruiting the Saints than it was the Saints recruiting Tyrann Mathieu. He was at Blue Oak. He posted his location, and then it was evident that was his intention all along in all of his interviews after he signed. So it's a heartwarming and a great story. And I think in addition to that, it's a plus for the team and is going to make them certainly more challenging to face next year, Rob.
Oh, dude. So ding, ding, ding. You said it. Malcolm Jenkins. I mean, you lose that veteran leadership, that vocal leader by example, and you gain a guy that is probably tougher, dude. I'm saying Tyrann Mathieu brings that tougher mentality, the same vocal leadership. He's been a winner, it seems, most places he's been. He's found success. He's always been a ball magnet. So, like, that part just has to excite you. I'm not saying he's going to come in and be 2009 Darren Sharper, but I mean, the guy causes turnovers. He causes havoc. He's everywhere. So, yeah, you got to be excited about that. And then flip it over to the offensive side, George. You bring in a similar vocal leader, Jarvis Juice Landry, and just tell us what you think that is going to do to that wide receiver chemistry in that wide receiver room.
Well, Matt, remember last year when you're pulling your hair out and we're throwing to Kevin White, Chris Hogan, Kenny Stills, Traquan Smith? It's going to be the exact opposite of that feeling. So maybe we never really saw what Jameis could really do because the receivers were so bad. I mean, not maybe, definitely. I mean, you already have a first-round receiver on one end. You have Mike Thomas when he's healthy and motivated, as good as there is in the NFL. So that's going to take so much attention, let alone clickbait always has eyes on him. Alvin Kamara, of course. They've forgotten name in this offense is going to be Jarvis. Jarvis getting open in the slant. Jarvis sure hands, 3-yard, 4-yard out, go upfield. Could maybe even use him a bit like Deebo Samuel with the ball in his hands any which way you can. And it's kind of the offense that Sean Payton always wanted to have again, because there's so many options, there's so many weapons. it'll be fun. I don't even say Deontay Harris, who is as dangerous as anybody in the NFL with the ball in his hands. So just to have that one extra weapon that we just needed so desperately the past few years in our wide receiving core, it is so dramatic, so impactful. Yes, Honey Badger's from St. Aug. Yes, Jarvis is from Metairie. Yeah, the hometown aspect, the LSU Tiger, of course, that makes it more fun. But just for our offense to be sharp again, to be dangerous again, is by far the most enticing component of his signing.
Well, okay. And for me, Jay's talking about Tyrann Mathieu's interview on Rich Eisen. I mean, I think a lot of people have seen Jarvis Landry's speech on Hard Knocks. So, it just gives you a little taste of what these guys are like amongst their teammates.
Contagious.
It's contagious. And I just, look, I don't know because I'm not in the room and I haven't seen any videos like this, but I just can't envision Michael Thomas like this. I just don't get that vibe from him. I don't think he's like that. I think he's a little bit in his shell, in his own mind, just too zoned in on himself. And I just think this is going to be great for us. I don't know, but I am biased. Y'all know me. I'm a homer.
Yeah, and you can't help but be a homer. And for the record, Jarvis Landry is my favorite LSU player of all time. The guy's 5'10", and he's gotten to where he is. Like a guy like Odell comes out with all the accolades, and Jarvis Landry gets drafted in the second round, and he wins the Super Bowl with the Saints. He puts up somehow a couple more 1,000-yard seasons. He's in the Hall of Fame discussion. Not saying that he's going to the Hall of Fame, but he's gotten there based on effort, toughness, and having speeches like he did, Ron, on Hard Knocks. So to bring that leadership into the room. And the other thing that we haven't talked about is there were reports that he wanted $20 million going into the offseason. Christian Kirk from the Arizona Cardinals, none of the three of us could name a play that Christian Kirk made in his first 3-4 years in the NFL, yet he gets paid $20 million. Jarvis Landry's coming to the Saints on a $3 million one-year deal, right? And that goes back to that same thing that we were talking about early in the season. Y'all remember the game against the Panthers, the game against the Patriots, where guys just aren't open, and Jameis is holding on to the ball. Jarvis Landry is not what he used to be, right? And that's why he got paid $3 million. Everybody was looking at that film around the NFL, and he got paid $3 million instead of $20 million. But he still brings a skill set that might be at least 9/10 of what it used to be, maybe 85% of what it used to be. And the other thing that he's always going to have are those intangibles. And then you talk about a compliment to Michael Thomas in an intangible way. He's two. Yeah, you're talking about Olave. What about Jarvis Landry, a guy that is going to hold everybody accountable in that wide receiver room that needs to be held accountable with a guy like Michael Thomas that it seems like they cater to pretty good.
Jay, you just touched on something that, look, for all the talk about not signing LSU Tigers and, what the heck does that really mean? Like, you don't pay attention to that, similar to the Ohio State talk with Olave. Dude, you just highlighted Jarvis took, way less money than probably what he could have and should have gotten around the league to come play for us. That had to have been a little bit of homer on his side. Hey, I'm going to come home, also be a part of a great organization, a team that he thinks he's going to find success on. And, hey, have a one-year deal, go bet on yourself, go get a bigger, longer deal. But so there's something to be said about that. Now, George, I got a fan question for you coming in from Stat Piat, a.k.a. Piat Daddy. Congrats, bro. Girl dad, hashtag.
Wait, first and foremost, Pat, my heart. Pat, my son's godfather. Congrats, Pat. You're our heart. You're our everything. You're made for this. You're a natural. You're our hero. Pat, congrats. You're the man, Pat. You're the man.
All right, so not only is he the man, he's the man with the question. And look, something else that Jarvis brings to the table, if you've been paying attention, if you ever had him on your fantasy team, brings a loaded cannon with him. And Piat wants to know who's going to have more passing yards this season, Jarvis Landry or clickbait.
God, my boy who gets disrespected every hot damn podcast to put my boy's name in it like that. You know, my boy clickbait is going to do nothing but succeed. Whether you put him at tight end, whether you want to run some gadget plays, he could run this gadget plays better than Jarvis could ever dream of. Clickbait can do it all. So, of course, I will always pound his name till the day he dies. Taysom motherfucking Hill will have more passing yards than Jarvis. Put some respect on his name. All he's done is gone 8-2 as a starter. What more do you want from the guy? All you want to do is bring him down to the gutter.
Respect on his name. You're talking about him at quarterback. First time playing full-time tight end. We just talked about Jarvis Landry being a borderline Hall of Fame receiver. Talk about disrespect to Jarvis Landry's name.
Or who's going to throw more passing yards? You listen to the question? Are you walking your dog? He's walking his dog.
No, I was listening to the question. Jarvis Landry has thrown for more passing yards than Taysom Hill. Did you see the Dallas Cowboys game? Reverse, left-handed throw? Come on, man.
Throws left, baby. Throws left. All right.
Clickbait.
Well,
you got me, George. I was walking the dog.
Yeah, we know.
We know. We heard every step. If we heard you say, "How old's the dog?" 2 years old, and you're huffing and puffing as you walk. What's up? What's the next question, Ron?
All right, next question. Let's get into the schedule. So the schedule comes out. I always hate this time of year because you get all the leaks, you get the fake stuff coming out, but we finally got the real thing. So high level, starts fast, right, George? First 3 weeks inside the division. I mean, so really can't afford to slip up. And then you go across the pond. So the first question is coming from our boy Simo, and he wants to know, are you a Hotspur fan, first off, and are you offended that this is not at Wembley, and are you making the trek?
West Ham all day long. 2, I'm not going to be there this year. 1, to answer your question originally about the schedule, here's my thought, and this has nothing to do with the fact they're putting the Falcons week 1. Just hear me out for a second. Every NFL team should play an interconference game for the first week of the season. So obviously for the Saints, we play the AFC West. We're going to play I got it wrong. We're playing the Browns in the AFC. We're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers, Baltimore, and the Bengals. So we're playing the AFC North. I saw the Raiders in there, the AFC West. No, we're playing the AFC North. You should start the season versus an AFC team so that if you F up, you're not losing a conference game or a divisional game in the first week of the season. So your least important game in the grand scheme of things is week 1. I've always thought that. I don't like having a game week 1 because at the end of the season, those are the ones that count the most. That being said, to begin versus the Falcons, Marcus Mariota's your quarterback. I mean, I love that. The Falcons are in a poor spot right now, so bring them on any day of the week.
Who gives a shit, George, if you're playing Marcus Mariota and the Falcons week 1?
Well, that's what I'm saying. So this is not the point in the macro scale. In the micro scale, yeah, beat the Falcons by all means. But the NFL should have a system so that week 1, AFC always plays NFC. And I've always just thought that might just be a weird, crazy take. But in the grand scheme of things, it makes the most sense.
You want to talk about the NFL having a system? I mean, here's the thing that ticks me off about looking at this schedule. So last year, the first year of the 17-game season, and we just happened to get landed with the eight home game season. I'm assuming that this is going to be fair play, and it's going to go 8-9, 8-9, 8-9. I haven't read into that to know. But this was supposed to be and we all know we lost a home game last year in week 1, having to go on the road to Jacksonville because of the hurricane. But, and look, outside the league's control, I get that. But this is supposed to be our 9-game home game year, and they take one of them away and send us out to London. So that part just kind of ticks me off. And I mean, I think we've talked about this. I think that this is customary that you typically get a bye on one side of that
That's
game,
the one,
either
Ron.
before or after.
That's the one.
Instead, we're on the road to Carolina. Then we got to go on the road even further to our perceived home game. To me,
let me hop in
bonkers.
so we don't sound like a bunch of curmudgeons who are sunburnt and grouchy after a long day. One, it is BS. You don't get a bye. I mean, it's a real jet lag there coming from London. But guys, let's also have a little fun here. Which games look like the most fun on the road? Obviously, London. London was one of the best days of my life when the Saints beat the Dolphins on that Ken Crowley interception. My God, that was such a fun day. It was such a fun day because, like, the whole time you're in Europe and you're a tourist. But as soon as it's Saints game day, it's like, this is mine. This is mine. Like, oh, y'all are tourists. This is mine. And you felt like you were no longer a tourist. You could go full Ron in such a unique setting. It was just one of the best days ever. But Ron, when you look at the schedule, which one pops out to you? The obvious answer is at Pittsburgh, but anything beyond London or Pittsburgh?
Well, first off, for our annual road trip that we need to make, because it's been a couple of years, I was on Team Pittsburgh very early on. I think that is the game. I mean, that would be just an electric atmosphere out there and likely a winnable game. I don't know. You got a rookie quarterback in there. So that one sticks out a good bit. At Philly, can't seem to get over this Philly hump with Jalen Hurts. So, I mean, that one is huge and has
at Philly.
It has the potential, dude.
Y'all been to Philly,
dude. We've gone in. We've owned Philly, dude.
We've taken
Philly.
our clothes on.
But I'm just saying that game sticks out to me because it's the second to last game of the season, has NFC playoff implications riding on it. And we're playing a team that's been our kryptonite here. That's kind of exposed our defense.
At Cleveland would be a blast if it was not Christmas Eve.
Oh, dude. Christmas in Cleveland? Come on, man. Graham can tell you about that.
You want to bet? You talk about
like peanut butter and jelly.
You want to talk about defense? You want to talk about defensive tackles making
Cleveland
the team?
rocks.
Ron, I want to bet you all the money you've ever touched that you couldn't get permission to go to Cleveland for the Christmas Eve. We got Santa Claus coming that night.
Bad him. Well,
dude, you don't think I could? You don't think I got that credibility?
Will Deshaun Watson be unsuspended by that time?
Yeah, we
Ron wanted Deshaun Watson.
I said from a football aspect, we did that whole episode with the caveat of we are not lawyers on this. All right. We did not have Gaston, the Godfather, on. So, yeah, that was football strictly. And would you not still?
Ron, what about at Zona, bro? Bring it back. One of the greatest weekends ever.
Let me pose it to you this way, host. Would you rather Chris Olave, Trevor Penning, Tyrann Mathieu, Jarvis Landry, or Deshaun Watson?
All right. I see what you did there.
No, he's right, though. And that's the value of mid-round
he's right, he's right.
No, so and Bill Belichick does this every year. He just takes the group pool of talent
and right on
one guy.
Show.
Oh, yeah, right. You've been drunk all show, Jay. Dude, so wait. No.
Dude, I got those cocktails in a can. Those those pretty good.
I think they call those high noons. No. So, dude, I think just to put that into perspective for people, like what you were saying, Jay, yes, those were draft picks. Those were free agent signings. The dude, Brian, whatever his name is, at DatBoyWolf or whatever on Twitter, he had one that I thought summed it up really well. It was just a couple months ago that all we could talk about was, the Saints are in salary cap hell, $70 million over. They have so many glaring needs. What are they ever going to do? Look at us now, dude. We've signed whoever the heck we wanted to sign. We've drafted whoever we wanted to draft. This roster is rounding out. Yeah, we noticed a couple needs on this podcast, running back being one, but there are a lot of huge holes.
Can you allow me to put the host cap on for a second?
Take it away.
At this point, George, Ron, you can answer second. At this point, May 18th, 9:30 at night, what's your prediction for the Saints record in 2022?
Super Bowl, motherfuckers. Man, we're going all the way. It's Team Jameis. You talk about the quarterback. You talk about Deshaun Watson. Do we want him? We have Jameis as our leader. We have Jameis to lead us to the promised land. We have Jameis. I got all the faith in Jameis. I got all the faith in Dennis Allen. I love these new guys that we brought back. We're flying under the radar, but we are so talented. And this is not a team that people are going to be talking about. We are a very talented team. We have a great defense. We saw it last year. Look at Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, Honey Badger. Cam Jordan showed you he still got it. Is our boy Davenport going to put it all together? What do we have in Peyton Turner? What do you even say Chauncey Gardner-Johnson? Paulson Adebo. Even if he has a sophomore slump, we still have P.J. Williams and Bradley Roby. This is a great defense, a fun defense. And now the offense, which was like pulling teeth last season, is catching up to the defense. And with a great offensive line, rebuilt offensive weapon, maybe we'll get another running back at some point this offseason. But like Ron alluded to, you can maybe get by with a late signing of a free agent running back. Look at what the Ravens did last year with that and be productive. Follow the 49ers. You might have a guy, Ohio State Buckeye, Sermon, who was a pretty high draft pick for running back last season, who probably get cut. There's 5 or 6 big names for the 49ers. Not all are going to make that team. We could bring one of those guys, their backup running back, to Alvin Kamara. And this team will go as far as Jameis Winston will take it, and I have faith in our boy. Jameis taking us all the way. What else you want me to say in May? You want to say we're going to lose in May? That's no fun. We're going all the way.
No, but you bring up another good point. What is Winston's production next year, right? I feel like he's more dialed in than ever. I feel like what he might lack in focus on the field, he gains in an intangible standpoint with the locker room. And I'm excited to see what he can do with some weapons.
All right, Jay, a little coaching on the host cap. You got to pin him to an answer. So, George, you didn't give us a win count there.
The only win that matters is the Super Bowl. Ron, what do you want?
Gosh.
What do you want? 11-6. Now you're happy.
Okay. All right. I was gonna go
12-5. You want a little Rob? What you want?
Bro, I just wanted a win count. So I'm going 10-7. And so, George, with those two predictions, I can tell you that we could be making some
10 and
money.
7. They were 9-8 with Ian Book starting at quarterback again.
And there's a lot of change on this team, Jay, and I'm just a little uncertain about it all coming together into a winning formula. And I'm going 10-7, and that's a damn good record, and that's going to make the playoffs and then go to the Super Bowl.
Why are you talking like this?
Jay, what's your record?
13-4.
I mean, okay, all right, all right. So,
and my number one road game
that
destination. My number one road game destination is wherever the Super Bowl is this year.
Oh, where is the Super Bowl this year? Y'all know?
What's the Jeopardy music?
I would guess Tucson.
Oh, you're right. I think it is in Arizona. That's the Arizona trip.
It is
George.
Arizona.
That's the Arizona trip. You don't want to waste it on the regular season.
No, that's
wait
the
for
one.
the Super Bowl. All right. So, given everybody's confidence in how many games we're going to win, I'll be here to tell y'all, since we don't have the Godfather for this one, the win count on DraftKings, Caesars, anywhere you look, is over under 8 wins for the Saints. So you want to make some money, just smash that button right there.
You know, the one thing that could bring us down to that number is if Jameis gets hurt again, because I have very little faith in Andy Dalton.
Yeah,
the red rifle. Come on, man. No,
I don't have any faith in him.
But George, I think depth as a whole is a concern.
True.
Yes, and that goes back to why a great draft and great additions is better than Deshaun Watson.
Correct. Yeah, you were in it for the long haul here. We're in it for the long haul. All right. A lot to cover in this episode, a lot to break down. definitely got to get on here more often. We owe it to y'all, the Rons, and we will going forward. So we gotta wrap this one up. We're getting past Ron's bedtime for sure. Jay's probably about to pass out from those cocktail cans.
Attaboy,
George,
Jay.
any final thoughts for the fans?
Guys, the one guy we don't give enough credit to, not credit, I guess, but optimism and belief, Dennis Allen. I'm really confident in him this year. So we just named all the bright spots on the field. I have a lot of confidence with him on our sideline. Of course, I love our new additions of the LSU guys. I'm not an LSU guy myself, but I do see what they bring to the table, especially Honey Badger off the field. But, Ron, there's a guy that we didn't go to talk about much that you're really excited about. You said he could be our Troy Evans, or Ramon Humbar, the fifth-round draft pick out of Appalachian State, Jackson. You were really excited about him before the show started, and you never got the opportunity to really go into that.
Oh, so glad you could kick it over to me for it. You know, a 4.5, 5.40 at the combine, you know, not anything to scoff at for sure. Mr. Football from South Carolina, Broome High School. Look, I can tell you all you need to know about this guy, but like I was kind of joking earlier when
might as well be Mr. Hockey in Louisiana. Sure.
The analysts are like, oh yeah, well, seems like a solid depth pick for special teams. So you're just like, womp womp. But hey, you never know, man. Anything could happen here. Like I said, Troy Evans, great member of that Super Bowl team.
Jay, one last thing. Speaking about one-year deals with P.J. Williams, our boy Quan Alexander, who does nothing but shine when he's on the field, is still a free agent. I know we run a nickel and we have Werner as the running of the linebacker to run with Demario Davis. Come on, why do we do this every year? When do we just give Quan that longer deal? Just keep him around.
Yeah, I don't know if you need to give him a longer deal, but I'm not quite drinking the Kool-Aid on Caden Ellis yet. I think he's adequate, but I haven't seen enough from him where I think he's I'm sorry, not Caden Ellis, but Pete Werner.
Pete Werner.
Oh, I like Werner. I like Werner a lot.
I haven't seen enough from him yet where I think he's bona fide, head over heels, Quan Alexander.
Jay, George, it was fun. Overdue, like I said, let's do it again sooner. And hey, I couldn't be more hyped for May. And yeah, Pro Saints talk. We out here. Drew Brees.
Oh, it's gonna be a hot summer. I'm trying to get my paper right. Gotta count the Hummer. I might relax with the prison vibes. Just my leave them shook and come through on a bite. I said, oh, it's gonna be a hot summer. I'm trying to get my paper right. Gotta count the Hummer. I might relax